I'm Andrew McGahan. I'm just going to read a short section from my novel, The Wide Earth. It's from a few chapters in. A young boy, William, whose father has died in an unfortunate accident, has been sent to live with his old uncle who he's never met in a strange old house up on a hill, an old homestead near his old farm. And this is just the bit where he first arrives at the house. His mother is unpacking the furniture around the back and he's been left alone out the front. It starts off like this. He turned back towards the house. It might have been deserted. He walked towards the front steps, feeling very small as the weight of the walls rose up on either side, a vertigo of stone. He came to the fountain, peered in. Water hadn't flowed in it for years, and sand had gathered in the bowl, giving root to the grass. Its central pillar looked as if it might have once borne a statue, but the column was snapped clean off, and only the enigmatic stump remained, a broken water pipe protruding. "Ahoy there, boy!" William glanced up. An old woman stood on the top of the steps. "You'd be the nephew then," she said. She was a hunched figure, wrapped in what seemed to be multiple layers of dresses and cardigans. She had a dark, hawk-like face, and scraggles of grey hair escaped from a woolen beanie perched upon her head. "Your mother sent me," she said. "Come up here a minute." William ascended the steps silently. The old woman watched him with sharp eyes. "How old are you?" she asked. 9. A grunt. "Your mother is with your uncle and the moving men." She studied him some more. "You know who I am?" William shook his head. "I'm your uncle's housekeeper. My name is Mrs. Griffith." She shuffled slowly about him, taking him in from all sides. Her bony feet were encased in threadbare slippers, and her hands were twisted, curled in on themselves. She pointed to a plastic basket that sat near the front door. "Well, go on, pick that up. You can help me get the washing in." William stared blankly. "Come on," she commanded, edging impatiently down the stairs. "They don't want you under their feet while they get the furniture inside." He picked up the basket and followed the old woman as she journeyed slowly across the tangled garden to the washing line. Then he stood by, holding the basket to his chest. The housekeeper reached up painfully and unpegged the clothes, dropping them into the basket, item by item. Grey shirts, faded dresses, shapeless underwear. For a long time she didn't speak, and neither did William. He stared at the house. None of this was what he'd expected. A housekeeper? Did that mean even more people lived here with his uncle? And yet the old man had seemed such a solitary figure on that long ago afternoon of the fire. William wanted his mother to return, but from around the back of the house he could hear sounds of unloading, the voices of men, and she would be busy there. The old woman was watching him. Suddenly she stabbed a peg towards the house. "You stay off those upstairs verandas. They're not safe. You stay away from the upstairs altogether. It's no place for games." More clothes dropped into the basket. She considered him again, sidelong. "You don't think it looks much, I suppose. I suppose you think your uncle should just throw in a few sticks of dynamite and finish it off." She leaned down at him sourly. "That's what he was told to do, you know, when he bought the place. The agent said he should just blow the house up and be done with it before it collapsed and hurt someone. He offered to do it himself, before your uncle even signed the papers." The washing was all off the line and piled in the basket. The housekeeper began her slow traverse back towards the house, William trailing behind. "But don't be fooled," she went on. "It's been here for 130 years and it's not falling down any time soon. Those verandas are a mess, but that's just the woodwork. The stonework is fine. It'll still be standing long after we're all dead and buried, even you, boy." William mustered a question. "Does anyone else live here?" Who else would there be? They were climbing up the front porch. The old woman paused at the top, turned to face outwards. "Look out there," she instructed. From this height, William could see most of the garden, and there was indeed a half-guessed pattern to the overgrowth, the ghost of a formal arrangement long dead. The yard was bounded left and right by the stone walls, some sections dislodged into jumbles by tree roots, others leaning precariously. Directly in front was the swimming pool. He could see the outline of it, perfectly rectangular, the dusty gleam of tiles, the diving board, some metal handrails at one end. But the pool itself was empty and must have been for some time. There were sheets of rusty tin sticking up from within it and the tops of tall bushes. Beyond the pool, the southern flank of the hill rolled down and away, surprisingly steep. William could see brown grass and gum trees and old fence posts. And at the foot of the hill washed the plains, immediately flat. Close by, the land was divided up into the familiar squares of cultivation. But as the eye leapt outwards, the colours and shapes merged, fields and farms spreading all the way to the horizons. It was a view far wider than he had ever gained from his area atop the grain silos. He could see the plains whole. On the left marched the blue line of the mountains, and on the right the land merely extended forever westwards. "You see," the old woman's voice was flat with displeasure. "You see all that? Every single bit of it, every single thing you can see, all of it used to be owned by the people who built this house. Grand folk, that family. Can you imagine what a time that must have been?" She was looking down at him now, shaking her head. "Of course you can't," she said. "But I remember it. Your uncle does too. He was born here. That's something you should remember, you and your mother." She turned and edged through the half-open door. William waited a moment confused, then followed her. He blinked as his eyes adjusted from the brighter light outside, taking in the dim image of a long hallway and stairs ascending. Then movement caught his eye, a door at one end of the hall swinging shut with an echoing bang. "There he goes," said the housekeeper, back into his office. She prodded the laundry basket that William still held to his chest. "You keep out of his way." And she led him off into the darkness.